Welcome to this webinar. It's so good to see you. We're here on the webinar How Logosynthesis Can Support the Healing Journey. And it's so nice to see people from all over the world. Welcome. This seminar is for people who are familiar with the basic procedure of logosynthesis. And today, we're going to talk about illness and how logosynthesis can help reduce the burden. Everyone deals with illness sooner or later. Either you get sick yourself or a loved one gets sick. This can have a huge effect on the person who's sick, but it also has a huge effect on loved ones. I will come back to this later. I'll start that PowerPoint. In this webinar, we'll explore the stages of illness. We'll explore how health is connected to David Hawkins' scale of consciousness and its frequencies. And I talk about examples from my practice in which I guide people who are ill themselves, as well as people who are dealing with a loved one who's ill. In these stories, you will hear how logosynthesis can change the perception and how people become more resilient. There will be some time for questions, and I will tell you about the follow-up webinar where you can learn how to support ill people with logosynthesis during all stages of illness. But let's first take a look at what stages an illness process has. What I'm telling you is very generalized, and in practice is different for each person. A healing journey is an individual matter. Illness typically unfolds in three important stages. Whatever the name of the disease is, these stages are recognizable to everyone. I'll give some examples to clarify what each stage includes. The moment of diagnosis. We have the moment before, during, and after diagnosis. Before the diagnosis, there's the research and testing done in advance. When there are stressful moments, such as waiting for test results or getting an IV, logosynthesis can help make them feel less overwhelming. Then we have the diagnosis moment. That's the moment when someone, a doctor, gives you a diagnosis based on the symptoms you have and the results of the research. And that can be very stressful, but it can also be very stressful if the doctors don't know what's wrong with you yet. So you can have a diagnosis, or maybe there is not yet a diagnosis, and both things can be very anxious to patients. And there's the moment after the diagnosis, such as questions as, how do I tell it to children? Or to see the despair and the reactions of a loved one. Logosynthesis can help the emotional roller coaster more manageable. The treatment journey is the next stage, and I will give a few examples that you might encounter. Sometimes you need to have a different lifestyle because of the disease. And that's for many people very challenging. What obstacles may come in the way, and how can logosynthesis help overcome them? Also important is the social support. Feeling that you belong and that there are people who support you is incredibly helpful on a healing journey. So what can you do when people aren't supportive? And when you're facing illness, experiencing life's purpose can be challenging during treatment journey, loading you to explore what it might be. And logosynthesis can help you find answers to that also. And it's very common to feel nervous before a follow-up, and logosynthesis can help ease this fear. And the last stage is the end of the treatment journey. So it can be you're healthy again, but it's also a possibility that you're chronically ill. And it's important to learn to deal with the restrictions caused by an illness. Logosynthesis can help with that too. And maybe it's the end of the healing journey because you're palliative, you're going to die. And logosynthesis can support you in accepting your life as it has unfolded, with your actions and even any regrets over what you haven't done. It can help people transition with greater peace. Then we go to David Hawkins' map of consciousness. You can see a very big orange line in the middle. We have numbers from 200 going down, and we have numbers from 200 going up. David Hawkins' map of consciousness charts human emotions and awareness from 1 to 1000. It shows how lower levels, like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, anger, and pride, block energy and make life feel like mere survival. People act from fear or anger, feeling like victims of their circumstances, which drains their vitality. Some people never get above 200. They tend to focus on what they can't do instead of taking care of themselves. I'm guessing most of you are already a bit more aware, so you probably notice emotions below 200, but you also have moments when you go above 200, moments of courage, acceptance, love, and joy. When someone receives a diagnosis, it's common to find themselves in these lower levels, struggling with fear, grief, or anger. Life can feel overwhelming and energy is easily depleted. Reaching the level of courage, around 200, that's the turning point. That's why the orange line is in the picture. Energy begins to flow above 200, and people can start acting from acceptance, love, and creativity. This is where true healing, growth, and transformation begin. Logosynthesis can support this process by helping release emotional blocks tied to fear, guilt, or regret, or anything else under 200. Logosynthesis allows energy to flow more freely, enabling people to move into courage, reclaim their power, and navigate illness with greater peace and clarity. After a diagnosis, people often shift into survival mode, reflecting by levels below 200 on Hawkins scale. Fear is common and can make healing more difficult. Instinctive reactions like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn help us survive and come from the nervous system. In logosynthesis, these reactions are seen as frozen energy patterns that we can be released to restore your energy. People dealing with illness experience anger around 150, directed at the illness, at the doctor, or at their own bodies. They also can experience fear around 100. Fear about the future, fear about the treatments, or mortality. That's also typical. Grief can feel heavy and persistent, reflecting the loss of the life they imaged. Some may fall into apathy, 50, as a protective response, while others feel guilt or shame over the impact of illness on themselves and their loved ones. When we are in survival mode, fear is at its highest, like 100, on the scale of consciousness. In this state, it's hard for our body to heal. By reducing fear, even just a little, we start to rise on the scale of consciousness. And the higher we go, the more space there is for true healing. Not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. We have to heal our hearts, we have to heal our souls and our minds, and our physical body on a true healing journey. A diagnosis pushes many people into survival mode. They fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. They feel like victims of their situation. Research among cancer patients shows that 92% struggle with fear and anxiety. They worry constantly and feel anxious all the time. When you're in the survival mode, fear is high, and the body focuses on immediate survival rather than healing. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline slow cell repair and drain energy, making recovery harder. Reducing stress changes this. Logosynthesis helps release fear, supporting emotional, mental, and physical health, and allowing the body to repair and thrive. This brings us to the end of exploring all the emotions around the healing journey. We've seen how survival mode fits into David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, and how staying in that mode gets in the way of healing. If you are beneath 200, you feel like a victim. But when you come above 200, you're more self-powered. And you can accept your situation of today. And when you accept your situation of today, there's less cortisol, less adrenaline, and there's more healing. In survival mode, fear is high, and the body focuses on immediate survival rather than healing. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline slow cell repair and drain energy, they're making recovery harder. Reducing stress changes this. Logosynthesis helps release fear, supporting emotional, mental, and physical healing, and allowing the body to repair and thrive. That brings us to the end of exploring the emotions around the healing journey. We've seen how survival mode fits into David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, and how staying in that mode can get in the way of healing. If this got you interested in how logosynthesis might support your healing journey, I'd really encourage you to read my book, Cancer Opportunities. I walk through how to use logosynthesis at key moments throughout the process. You can order the book on ball.com. Then we're going to share stories from my practice room where I guide people who are dealing with illness. And the first story I want to share with you is the story of a client who was diagnosed with bladder cancer. She was diagnosed with bladder cancer while we had already begun sessions addressing her anxiety about hospitals. From the moment of diagnosis, we were able to apply the logosynthesis method. Her aunt had died from the same cancer, so initially she feared that this would be her fate as well. A vivid image arose of her aunt laying in bed. And we processed this memory using the basic logosynthesis protocol. Whenever fear arose, we immediately identified the trigger and released the frozen energy, allowing it to move again. When I asked her 2 years later how she looked back on this period with cancer, she said, to my own surprise, with very warm feelings, I felt strong and empowered. Her surroundings had expected her to be nervous and afraid all the time, but that wasn't the case. She loved the steady rhythm of her days. She started with a meditation every day and listened to one of my evening meditations before going to sleep. And it was a period of attention for herself. Through the logosynthesis method, this woman was able to move from grief and fear to acceptance on the scale of awareness of David Hawkins. In Dutch, I made a course for ill people. It's called Less Stress, More Healing. And I have a lot of lessons they can do at their own time, at their own pace, to work with parallel to the healing journey in the hospital. It was rare for me to guide someone from the very beginning of the healing journey because usually people come after hospital treatments. Because of the survival state, a lot of people dealing with illness do not reprocess their healing journey during the healing journey. This is the black hole that many people fall into. After the treatments, when they are recovered and no longer anxious, then is the time to reprocess the whole healing journey. The words of the doctor, the emotional reaction of a loved one, a treatment, the room where the radiations took place, the words of a neighbor. So often it's about addressing unfinished emotional and personal work that was postponed during sickness or treatments. The next story is about a man who went for checkups this month in January for 4 types of cancer. He wasn't particularly worried about 3 of them, but prostate cancer concerned him. He said, prostate cancer is a silent assassin, a hidden threat, because I don't notice it. Unlike the other cancers, he hadn't experienced any physical symptoms. Still, prostate cancer caused him to feel pressure in his chest and a queasy stomach. We applied the logosynthesis method to this belief that prostate cancer was a silent assassin. This led to a powerful shift in perception. After the process, he said, and he smiled, he said, but I can also become the silent assassin of prostate cancer by moving a lot, eating healthy, and thinking positively. And this is a striking example of how logosynthesis can change perception and empower the person. To, to show how logosynthesis can support a healing journey, I have another story for you. And there was a woman who was extremely nervous about going for a checkup at the hospital. She had been worrying about it for weeks since she got an invitation for a checkup. She was thinking about it constantly, and her tension kept building, and that's why she reached out to me. We applied the logosynthesis method to her anxiety about the hospital visit. And a week later, she told me, Jannie, I slept through the entire night before. I even managed to eat my breakfast in the morning. I stayed very calm in the waiting room, And then the doctor said exactly the words from my affirmations. There's nothing wrong with you. What the difference 1 hour of guidance can make. You heard some stories about people who were sick themselves, but I also have one story to share, and this is from a loved one. A man whose wife had a brain tumor. He remembered as if it was yesterday when they were all standing together in the elevator at the hospital. He, his two sons, and his daughter-in-law, and they were all crying so hard. His wife had just had surgery, and they'd all been terribly worried about her. When he thought back to that moment, he could still feel the goosebumps and the fear and the grief. And after we applied the logosynthesis method to this situation, the emotions became less intense. And his wife really appreciated this too, because she found her husband overly worried. It was bothering her. Because her husband was less anxious now, this woman could focus better on her own recovery process. Well, now we have some time for questions. The question is about how you can climb up on the David Hawkins scale of consciousness. Well, you can use the logosynthesis method to climb up, but the last years I'm really convinced about how your thoughts are very important in this process. Your thoughts are going around, 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 around. They repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's very important for you to know that every cell in your body is listening to your thoughts. So if you have anxious thoughts, all the cells in your body will be anxious. If you have grateful thoughts, all the cells in your body will be grateful, and there will be more healing. If you write down every day 3 things you're grateful for, it will help you to climb up on David Hawkins' scale of consciousness. Because in the lower section, under 200, most people look off to the lack, to what they have not. They have not good health. There are circumstances. They feel like a victim. But when you start to be more grateful, you come above 200. Then you can focus on what you have instead on what you don't have. And if you have a grateful heart, there will be less adrenaline, there will be less cortisol, and there will be more healing. Ellen Rojas-Jakolka, our host for today, one of our hosts, and I have designed an online follow-up webinar. We have created a 3-part course for colleagues who work with people facing illness. Each session focuses on a different stage of the journey and how logosynthesis can help relieve emotional and mental stress during these times. The first session is about the diagnosis. We will explore the worries, fears, and confusion that often come at that moment. You will learn specific logosynthesis protocols to help ease the emotional reactions to a diagnosis. You can always use the basic protocol. And in this session, we will also introduce a special protocol designed for people who face illness. The second session focuses on the healing journey. Here we look at how to use logosynthesis while someone is undergoing treatment, including the use of medication. And again, you can use the basic protocol at any time, and we will provide a special protocol to support medication to work effectively while minimizing side effects. The third session explores the period after the healing journey. This stage can look different for various people. Some are fully recovered, some live with chronic illness, and some are in palliative care, facing the reality that the end of life is approaching. And we will discuss how logosynthesis can support people during these stages, and how you will receive a special protocol for working with individuals who are reflecting on their life. By the end of this course, you will have practical tools and protocols for each stage of illness. The basic protocol can be used at any time, and the special protocols we provide in each session will give you additional stage-specific support to help both yourself and the people you work with. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate your time and participation. I will hope to see you again on February 19th for the online course where we will explore more about logosynthesis, how it can support the healing journey. And until then, take care and have a wonderful day.